Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. A familiar face here on the show. I think we've had it about 4 times now, I think. Give or
Four. I
take.
think this is our fifth. This is my fifth. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the fifth one. So we're here today to talk about possibly one of the worst trades in history. And I'm not talking about your favorite football team or basketball team, ladies and gentlemen. This is involving our country, good old USA, and
Yes.
probably the worst trade ever. Now, kind of give us a little breakdown here, real quick, Ignacio. I don't know if I even said your name in the beginning there. It's been a long week, but
No worries, brother. No worries. It's good to be back on there.
Esteban, please give us a little breakdown here of this Brittney Griner Viktor Bout situation.
Brittney Griner, yeah, but she is a basketball player, so there was a trade. There is a basketball player involved for sure. Yeah. No, Viktor Bout.
Yeah, I guess there is a little sports in there.
Yes. Well, that's one of the big reasons they were comparing her to LeBron James. They were saying she's the female version of LeBron James, and how can she sit there in jail? You hear all the pundits talking about if this was LeBron James, you should have seen he would have been released immediately. They would have given up anything. Well, no, that's not the way it should work, because then guess what? The Russians are going to keep on, especially Putin, going to keep on arresting Americans on trumped up charges to get really bad people out, which is what they want. And this is who this guy Viktor Bout. He is a really bad guy.
Yeah.
He's nicknamed the Merchant of Death for a reason. If you ever seen the movie Lord of War with Nicolas Cage, it's based on his life, Viktor Bout. That's a good one, but there's a lot of good documentaries about it too. So that movie gives you a little idea. There's good documentaries, but I'm going to give you a little background on who this guy is. He's a product of the Soviet Union. He was in the Soviet military back in the 70s and 80s, right? He was a linguistic specialist. The guy is like a master of over 10 languages. He speaks a variety. I mean, he has a gift. They're saying he spoke English at a very young age, and he just picked up on a lot of languages, from Arabic to Farsi to Portuguese. You name it, this guy absorbed it. So he had a gift for that. And with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 91, he transferred that skill set he had to do firearms trafficking. And he was they say that, he was possibly KGB, Russian intelligence, Soviet intelligence then, in the war in Afghanistan, the war in Angola. So he just started, arming the other side. So he would start arming conflicts in Africa, in the Middle East, all over Eastern Europe. And then eventually he got caught up in this unbelievable, elaborate sting by Department of Justice, run by DEA. It took months. This happened in 2008. And it wasn't easy, because this guy, Viktor Bout, he lives in the shadows. He's no dummy. He's really good. I mean, it's a reason why he supplied so many weapons he did to Charles Taylor and with the Liberian Wars, right? The Sierra Leone. If you have Blood Diamonds, you ever seen the movie Blood Diamonds with Leonardo DiCaprio? You'll see that he took payment. He took anything for payment. He would take these diamonds because that make more money in it, right? And Charles Taylor, he ended up getting 50 years for the ICC, International Criminal Court. So they were co-conspirators, right? He's supplying these guns. They're doing mass killings and mass shootings, right? This guy should never see a light of day either. But unfortunately, the other day, he did. And if you haven't seen the prisoner exchange, where they're both crossing, this is like something from the Soviet Union in the 80s with the Cold War. They're both crossing the tarmac there in UAE, United Arab Emirates, and he's crossing their line there. It's like, man, what is going on? How is she? And she's so huge. She's like almost 7 feet tall. It's like a guy there crossing. It's like, this shouldn't be happening. So going back to what happened with the DEA in that case in 2008, they're able to get cooperation informants who are allegedly working for the FARC. And if those who don't know who the FARC is, that's a narcotics terrorist group out of Colombia. They're the ones back in the 80s, back in 2000s, were pumping a lot of cocaine that were being used by the Mexicans to bring up to the United States and all over the world.
Now, didn't they battle Escobar for a little bit too, when they look kind of like the early days?
Yeah, they're very, and they were battling the government. They were trying to overthrow the government of Colombia.
Didn't they call them guerrillas too? Guerrilla FARC?
Yeah. They're in the mountains. These guys were living in the mountains. They were hardcore. They fought the government for years. They don't exist now because of a peace treaty. And actually, Colombia now elected recently a communist leader. So in essence, in some ways, they won. So it took, and according to the reports and according to the indictment, it appears these guys who are working with the DEA and the DOJ were one time associated with the FARC, right? Because and during the conversations, it takes months for him to gain confidence if this is real. They meet in Curacao for an early meeting with a go-between for Viktor Bout, these cooperators. Then they go meet in Romania. Then they meet other countries. Eventually, he gets them on the phone. He starts talking to them. He sends them emails. He gives them his personal email. So he's feeling more and more confident. He says, listen, I hear you guys are top-ranking members of the FARC. I've got some pictures here. I want you to circle who you guys are. This is according to the indictment. So that tells me the government had high-ranking members of the FARC working for them in this operation. I mean, I personally don't know this. It's just what I'm reading from the documents I'm seeing. So that to me, based on what it says there, and I guess he does, they circle it, and he goes, okay. 2 weeks later, after that they meet in Bangkok, Thailand, to finalize things and talk more in detail what's going on. That's pretty good. To get Viktor Fark to come out of the shadows, that means he believed these guys were high-ranking FARC members who were ready to do this thing. So they meet. They have a long meeting, about 2 hours. Everything according to the indictment is recorded. They have video. These guys all have, so you hear everything they're saying in the recordings. And he's going to supply them over 500 Stinger missiles, 500 surface-to-air missiles. I mean, this is a large amount, hundreds of thousands of firearms, ammunitions. I mean, it's a big thing. This is going to cost tens of millions of dollars. It's a big thing. And they said, listen, this is who we are. This is going to be used against the Americans in the military. This is going to be used against personnel, anybody out there. And these are our enemies. He goes, well, the enemy of the United States is the enemy of mine. His words. Eventually, after the meeting, he goes down and he gets arrested by Thai police because they're in Bangkok, Thailand, and it takes 2 years to extradite him from Thailand to the United States, Southern District of New York, where eventually he's convicted and he's sentenced to 25 years for conspiracy to kill Americans overseas and other charges, federal charges. So serious bad guy without kind of record.
And then they send him to Marion?
He was in Marion, Illinois. Yeah. He was in isolation there for a year. He's done about almost over 15 years. And allegedly he didn't cooperate. Very loyal. Putin likes that. And one of the few things he had in his cell was a picture of Putin and in support of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So that's where his mindset is.
Yeah, that's where they held Gotti at for a long time until he got sick, and then they transferred him to the prison in Springfield. But Marion, Illinois is no joke of a prison. Like, I mean, it's not quite a supermax, but it's damn close.
Yeah, and he was in isolation, and he was something that Putin has been trying to get him out for years. I mean, you've had Paul Whelan, who didn't get out now. He's been incarcerated now for 4 years out there, and some bogus espionage charge that they trumped up on him.
And see, that's something I wanted to get to, because for a lot of people, there's already memes circulating of, well, we got Brittney Griner, but Paul Whelan's left over there, to rot. And so there's a lot of controversy behind that. And to start with, I'm not the biggest LeBron James fan, but at the same time, I want to say that I don't think LeBron James would have been over there with a fucking illegal vape pen anyway. I mean, that's, like the guy or not, for athletes wise, LeBron James has never been in trouble. He's never been caught doing anything wrong. He's never been, caught cheating on his wife, or, he's done everything the way you're supposed to do it. A lot of people just don't like him because he's always compared to Jordan and, stuff like that. So sports statistics aside, the man hasn't done anything wrong as a person, as far as like, outside the law, or, making himself look bad or his teammates look bad. So that comparison, that if it was LeBron, don't even need to be made, because LeBron wouldn't have made a mistake like that. Did it call for what she got? Absolutely not.
No way. I mean, I was prior customs, as I told you before, ATF, right? You get something like that, you normally either seize it, give them a fine, or they get sent back.
Yeah,
that's it. 9 years. That's you must have to do something really, really. I mean, for supposedly Paul Whelan, I mean, he got trumped up with the espionage charge because he had a USB drive with information about Russian officials, that he had a meeting with some guy, a friend of his. That seemed like there's something fishy there too.
See, I've heard a couple different things with that. I've heard that he got money taken from him and he complained, and then so they charged him with espionage. Also heard something about him trying to either cash a check or do something over there, like get money over there. And that was a charge or something like that. So I don't know a lot about the Paul Whelan situation, other than the fact that he is a U.S. Marine. He is over there. And do you know how long has he been over there?
He's been incarcerated for just about 4 years now.
Okay, so do you know if Trump ever tried to get Paul out of there?
I've heard that the government is aware of the situation while I was reading and trying to negotiate, but with Putin, it has to be a target. You know, he has to win, right? Just like this situation. Brittney Griner, no. I think when they saw her situation there, I think his eyes lit up and he said, this is an opportunity. She's a celebrity. And she played there 7 years in Russia, right? She was well known. She was well liked by the fans in Russia. So people knew who she was. And of course, she's a two-time gold medalist in the United States. She is she has quite a few records in WNBA. She's done really well. She has a lot of big stats. So people knew she said, oh, I have an opportunity, because he's been trying to get the right prisoner to get out Viktor Bout. This is something he's been doing it for years, especially now with the war in Ukraine. Yeah, if I was an American, I'll be honest with you, I'm an American, I would not go to Russia. No way, because they find a way. They'll trump something on you because they want certain people. We still have a lot of high assets in here in U.S. prisons, which he wants out. So it's going to keep on. And with Paul Whelan's situation, now they're talking about this assassin that's in Germany who killed quite a few people during the pretty much war crimes during the Chechen wars, right? And he wants him out for Paul Whelan. No, that's not a fair change. Again, this guy's a mass murderer killer, and you want. So this is the card he's playing. It's like Putin is playing chess, and it appears Biden is playing checkers.
Oh yeah,
and he's getting played on every move here, because this is something you just can't do. And listen, you're hearing this criticism. You know, I'm retired law enforcement DOJ, but you're hearing people in the intel community who are really upset. It's a slap in the face for those agents who sacrificed, who did this case, the United States Attorney's Office in Southern District of Manhattan and New York. I mean, it's a slap in everybody's face to the jury that deliberated. The judge has sentenced him 25 years, and he should have gone to International Criminal Court after he did his time. That's where he should never see the light of day. This guy's a really bad guy. Just imagine all the weapons, all these conspiracy involving these heinous tyrants who are killing civilians. He is supplying them. He turned Africa from using machetes to AK-47s and beyond, right? That's what he is. That's the Lord of War, Merchant of Death. And the worst of the worst will reach out to him. And the FARC were as bad as it gets. They were a terrorist group in Colombia looking to kill Americans, and he had no qualms putting as many weapons or whatever he needed in their hands.
Well, see, what gets me is you have Biden and his whole regime who has preached on gun control. Gotta have gun control. Gotta have gun control. All right, that's their mainstay. As soon as a mass shooting happens, gun control. We need better gun control. Then, for this trade, you release one of the biggest probably the biggest arms dealer ever.
Yeah.
For a basketball player. Now, albeit, you know, maybe she's a good one. I don't know. I don't really follow women's basketball all that much. And this sentence that she gave, as we mentioned earlier, was ridiculous. But I mean,
yes,
that trade makes us look ridiculous as a country.
It's ridiculous trade.
You fight gun control over here, yet you release one of the biggest gun distributors that's caused a lot of the stuff that you're standing up here bitching about in the first place. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense, and it makes us look incompetent as a nation. And anybody that doesn't see that, I don't know what to tell you, because it's like if Biden said yes to that trade, like I almost wonder like how this went down. If Putin just was like, all right, well, we'll give you, you know, Brittney back for Viktor. And he just said yes. Like, it didn't even try to negotiate. It didn't even try to get Paul Whelan. It didn't even say, no, that's not going to work, because he knows that this. And then on top of that, you're giving money to Ukraine. You're giving millions of dollars to Ukraine to help fight a war against Russia. But then you let out someone that's going to go right to Russia and probably try to help them win the damn war. It's the most crazy thing I've ever seen.
He just did an interview. I know we were talking a little bit earlier. with Maria Butina, and she was a Russian spy that was arrested here, convicted in the United States. She did her time in Tallahassee, in Florida, FCI, and she just got out a few years ago. She was hit with being an unregistered agent in the United States. She has a show now in Russia, and her first person that Viktor Bout interviews is her, because they have that in common, comparing their stories being incarcerated in the United States. And she asked him, what are you going to do now? He said, yeah, I support the war. I'm going to volunteer. Of course, you don't think Putin's going to let him retire? No, he's 55. He's active. He's going to put his skill sets to work, and he's going to try to help Putin win this war. He believes in this war. So that's what he's going back to. So things we have to prepare for is what he's going to do. Obviously, he's going to try to help him overcome. He's very good at manipulating, overcoming embargoes, because all these nations that he armed had massive embargoes by the United Nations. The guy was a master of overcoming embargo. He knew how to fly in. He knew how to bribe officials. He has contacts, and that's what exactly Putin is looking for, his contact and his ideas and what to do and how to try to change this around. And he's that kind of guy to try to do it. And of course, he criticized the United States and the culture and everything else. But listen, I'd rather be in the United States and live under Putin, that's for sure. You can't compare the two. I mean, our country has problems, no doubt, but it's still the best system in the world out there. And compare and think, you'd rather be there? Hey, bro, I think anytime I'd rather be in this country than be out in one of those or communist China, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this whole thing, and I wanted to get to it last week, but the schedule was so crazy. It baffles me that, now what do other countries think of this? I mean, I know they're paying attention. What are they looking at? Because that's what it's almost like being in prison. When you go in prison, you're going to get proposed for something right off the rip, and if you are known as weak, then everybody's going to come and try to take a piece of you. And that's really what legit has me worried right now, that we look weak to everybody.
Yeah. And Putin's going to keep on trying that, not with us, just only. I know they're trying the same thing with Canada and in Europe with our NATO allies. He has certain people in jail. So of course, if you're also an ally of the United States, be careful going to Russia. These guys are notoriously corrupt. They're out there because Putin pretty much has control. He is desperate. He is losing this war in Ukraine, and he'll do anything to use leverage. Again, that was, like I said, if you're going to do a trade like that, it can't be 1 for 1.
No,
it has to be 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 10, something of value. And there's other Americans out there too that have suspected that they should not be incarcerated either. These names have come up, but that's just a really, really, really bad trade, as bad as it gets.
Well, and see, you called this a couple months ago, right? Because you wrote a book. I mean, for those of our listeners that might be hearing you for the first time, you have a number of books that you've written. I think you're up around 50, right?
56 and counting.
56 and counting. Now, these are shorter books.
Reads.
You're not gonna. It's not gonna take you a couple of days to fly through these by any means, but all very good subject matters. A lot that we've covered here on the show: mob, prison gangs. You wrote a book on Putin as well. You wrote a book on Viktor Bout, and obviously a lot of 1%ers like we covered last time. But didn't you call this trade and you said that if they do this would be one of the worst mistakes ever? Didn't you call it?
Yes, I did. I put in my book 4 months ago. I did. I shout out to Gary Jenkins. I know you know Gary Jenkins from Griner and Whelan.
Mm-hmm.
He saw a lot of stuff going on. He asked me, "Hey, are you going to do a book on this?" I said, "I was thinking about it." And he said, "Let me know. We'll do a show together." So if you like this conversation too, Gary and I did a show a few months ago about this whole thing, and he put the question on, should President Biden do this trade? And everybody was saying, no. This was 4 months ago. We all said, no, no, no. If you don't mind, I would like to read a little excerpt from that book.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is the Viktor Bout book, and this is chapter 5, U.S.-Russian relations. The complex operation by U.S. authorities around the world to arrest Viktor Bout obviously stunned Moscow and has been trying for years to have him released from U.S. incarceration. Putin has entered into a Cold War with the United States and is using different tactics to get the Russian nationals released from foreign prisons. The Biden administration will be making a major error exchanging Bout for Americans that have been falsely arrested. There have been many factors driving these arrests, including the wars in Ukraine, where the United States has been spending billions of dollars in arms and aid to the Ukrainians. This prison exchange would only empower Putin and encourage his regime to do more of the same in the future. Putin and Bout are one and the same, vicious and ruthless, that have no remorse for the heinous criminal actions, none at all. Viktor Bout will go in history as the most notorious international arms trafficker in the world, causing havoc to various continents, overcoming weapons embargoes while supplying firearms to rebels and tyrants in civil war conflicts. His legacy is one of death and mayhem, needs to remain incarcerated, respecting the rule of law. If not, the Merchant of Death will continue his reign of terror and regain his title of Lord of War.
Lord of War. Now, for those that we mentioned it earlier, the movie that had Nicolas Cage in it, come out, it's probably been a couple, maybe about 10 so years ago now, probably, right?
2004.
2004. Okay, yeah, so well, it's about 20 years ago now.
Yeah, time flies.
In the movie, he had a brother, right?
Yeah, he had a brother, and
did he have a brother in real life?
He has family, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think what was it? Jared Leto was playing his brother. Who was playing his brother?
I don't remember, but I remember Ethan Hawke was playing the agent with Interpol, chasing him around the world to make the case on him.
I'm pretty sure Jared Leto played his brother, because I remember like they had it was when he was like really going off the rails, and he had like Ukraine, the shape of Ukraine mapped out in cocaine on the table of what they were doing. I mean, it was just, and I don't even know if I knew at the time that was based on a real guy.
Oh, gotcha. I knew a little bit about it because I was already with ATF, and of course, ATF also, he's been ATF's radar too. There's a famous scene where I think he came back from Africa or something, and he was held up by customs, and then these ATF agents approached him and said, "Hey, we're with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or just firearms, explosives added later." And it's like, "I guess you're not here talking about the alcohol or tobacco, are you?"
Yeah. Did he really say that? It sounds like something he'd probably say.
Yeah, it's a good line in the movie, though. I kind of like it.
It's a lot of, but I want to say there was a scene in there similar to the one with Barry Seal and Tom Cruise, where there's like, in a minute that phone's going to ring and I'm going to get up and walk out of here. And I mean, when you have those kind of connections, you're supplying arms to a lot of people. I mean, you probably obviously he's got to be careful. Like you said, he operates largely in the shadows, but you got to think that you've got a lot of people in high places going to see to it that you don't get arrested.
Yeah, especially now. I mean, now he's going to be really careful, right?
Yeah, it's going to, I doubt you will ever catch him the way you did before. No way.
No, that was an unbelievable, breathtaking operation that you have to have the right people. It wasn't even agents. It was guys who were high-ranking FARC members that started cooperating with the government. And that's when it started turning for the FARC, where they were going to start changing. They wanted to become legitimate, and they wanted to change. That's where it became. And for them to really reel him in with meetings around the world. This started in Curacao, went to Romania, went to other parts of Northern Europe, and then ends up in Bangkok. Wow, impressive. Very similar to how we got the high-ranking Yakuza member. I don't remember, I told you the same thing.
Yeah.
Meetings around the world, and then they took him down at the Mortons in Manhattan. Eventually, he came in for the meeting.
Wow. So, I mean, let me ask
those are undercover deals I would love to have done. That's one I would love to have done myself.
Yeah. Well, you think catching somebody like that at Morton's in New York is just the last place you're thinking you're going to.
Well, that's what they had a meeting. They had him come there, and that's where they're going to meet the other guys. And so they had their meetings around the world, and it worked out nicely because that's where he gets prosecuted. Viktor Bout could never come in the United States. Wasn't going to do that. But, Bangkok worked out well. It took 2 years extradition hearings to finally bring him over. That's the other thing. It was such a long process to bring him in here, a trial, a tax dollar, all this comes in. He is a big he is a clear and present danger. He is a risk to our national security. And he's saying it now. He's bragging about it in his first interview, what he's going to do. Yeah, I'm going to help in the war. Yeah, I believe in Putin. I believe he said this. I believe he should have invaded earlier. He thinks he waited too long. So this guy is out there. He's about making Russia back to what the Soviet Union or something else, an expansionism. He's a problem, and hopefully, the right people are on him soon enough.
And that's the thing. And I know we said it earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. That's the insane part. Is Biden is the one that agreed to this trade. He's going to go out here. He's going to help Russia fight Ukraine, which is the same people that we've been sending money to help support. It's just like none of this makes any sense. And I don't know if somebody was in Biden's ear to tell him to do this, if it's to try to do something for re-election.
Yes, I heard that. Constituents. He had a lot of pressure from his constituents.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no telling if this. I don't even know if that man's a sound mind right now.
Yeah, she checked a lot of the boxes. You know, obviously celebrity. She's an athlete. She's liberal. Her big Biden supporters, right? How Paul Whelan? When I was reading, he's a Republican. He voted for Trump, right? Marine. Now, granted, I was reading more into him. I did a little more diving to Paul Whelan. He did have a not dishonorable discharge, but a bad discharge for larceny conviction. He was court-martialed. He was staff sergeant in the Marines, and he was court-martialed to an E4. Right? He had issues, no doubt. But this whole situation here, it's what I'm reading, what I'm seeing, it seemed like a sham trial, and he got railroaded pretty badly.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of them. Again, I'll say this about Brittney as well. Neither one of them deserved the sentences that they got. But it's like, if you're going to get somebody out, number one, you should try to get both. Like, even if I don't even know if that'd have been a good trade for both, to be quite honest with you. But even if you're going to do it, you've got to get more than a Brittney Griner. That's just not. That's not good enough. And like I said, even if you got both, even if you got Brittney and Paul out of there, I still don't know if that was enough for what you give up.
Everybody said don't do it. Everybody in the intelligence community and law enforcement, everybody looking about it. Viktor Bout is such a dangerous guy. I think Putin right now is laughing. Viktor Bout's laughing. I mean, and so Maria Butina, they couldn't believe it that they did the trade. And I understand she's a celebrity. She put herself in that situation. I think if you hold on a little longer, I don't think Putin survives another year, right?
Well, you and I discussed that. You and I discussed that in one of it was either our first or second shows, that with the way things are going and the way that people are dying up under his watch, that it's not going to be long before somebody steps up and takes the reins and takes them out. Somebody's going to pull Albert Anastasia on him and take him out and take over.
Or he'll drink some hot tea and that'll be it for him, right?
Yeah, like he's done to a few other people.
Quite a few, yes. He's a master of having people poisoned with hot tea, especially any dissidents. If you're a dissident of his, man, just don't drink anything there. Don't do anything. Just
go near windows or nothing.
No, yeah, exactly. Especially if you're a critic of him, forget it. A lot of guys slip through open windows out there. Oh man, brutal. So I don't think. I mean, the war's gone bad. The embargoes are enormous. The pressures are getting larger. I don't see him lasting another year. I really don't.
No,
I don't know why they didn't hold. I know Brittney, it stinks. I saw the videos. I saw what she was going through in those penal colonies. Yeah, they had her doing all these horrible labor and all that. But I think at the end, you don't do that kind of deal. You don't do it.
No, I don't either. And I agree with you. I don't think Putin's going to be hanging around. We talked about that in one of our episodes. I think it was the second one, that I really believe that sooner or later, somebody inside his own camp is going to take him out. Especially if people keep dying the way they are up under. I mean, now who knows, because if they get out and the tide starts to turn and they can start dominating this war, who knows how it'll go. But I mean, where does Viktor, that's a curious or a question that I had. So like, if he's this arms dealer, I mean, where does he get his from to supply the people? Does he just know that many people all over the place?
I mean, he was doing it from the 90s and early 2000s until he was arrested in 2008. That the guy has contacts, right? The guy has knowledge. The guy has linguistic skills. He can contact a lot of people, make things happen. Maybe he's an expert in helping, which he is, getting over embargoes. I mean, there's quite a few embargoes now against Putin and Russia. Right. So, hey, how did you overcome this? What ideas you have for this? Who can help? Maybe he needs more mercenaries. Hey, man, the guys in Africa. Who can we bring over here? We can pay and help fight this war, right? I think he'll find things. He's gonna be a factor one way or another with him, because Putin is not gonna. He did all this work for a reason. He's been doing it for years. It was for him to sit home and retire. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I heard when you and William Steele went on his show. Shout out to True Crime William Steele podcast. There, you said that this was a very calculated move by Putin to do this, that he's been probably planning this for a while. And I believe that you were spot on with that, because he is a very calculated dude. I mean, you don't have to like him, but you have to respect of what he is as far as a strategist and how he operates. I mean, he's no dummy. I'll put it like that. He's not an idiot. And I do believe
you don't survive like that, being the top being an idiot in Russia.
Yeah, I mean, well, anywhere, because as we talked about earlier, you know, like with the mob, I mentioned Albert Anastasia. You know, once somebody gets to the top, you know, getting to the top sometimes is the easy part. Staying at the top is largely the hard part, because not only do you have to worry about law enforcement or other branches of government taking you down, then you have to worry about your own people, because there's always somebody hungrier coming up behind you that eventually will want to take that spot. That's just the nature of life. And
that's true.
It is very, very impressive that he's held the spot for as long as he has. And, you know, like we mentioned earlier, for people that don't know, I mean, he's been pretty much right in the midst of things, of numerous poisonings and mysterious deaths of people that disagreed with him and were attempting to, you know, maybe shine light on some of his, you know, doings and misgivings over there, and they all wind up dead.
Yeah, he don't play around. He don't play around. That's for sure. And now he's a war criminal. So now he knows he's in trouble, and you know, he's not gonna, you know, back down. He's gonna go out swinging. He's gonna go out swinging, and that's the way he is. And they gotta just take him out if that's what's gonna happen with Putin. And now he got him. So he got him back. You know, if he wasn't that important, like I said, he's been trying for years to get him. You know, not just because they're both KGB guys, because this guy is good. He in my opinion, he was still Russian asset. He was all these years still Russian asset, helping Putin, helping them. And Putin rewards loyalty. This guy didn't cooperate with law enforcement. And at the end, he was just very fixed on, you know, his loyalty to Mother Russia, right? And he's a Russian asset if he's not still Russian intelligence, which appears now he's going to volunteer to help in the war effort. So there he goes again. And big mistake, I think. And I encourage everybody to contact your local representative, you know, congressman, your senator, even the White House. If you're not happy with this, let them know. Let them know this is a bad move, and it's going to hurt the country, and not just the country, the world, because this guy hurt the world, and this is what kind of guy he is. He should never have seen a light of day, because he's part of these conspiracy cases that you've got, you know, Charles Taylor from Liberia doing 50 years in The Hague. He should be doing the same thing. He's just as liable as this guy, 50 years. He should never have seen a light of day. He should have been put away and said, we'll never see this guy again, and we're done. But no, I never thought I'll see that guy in the tarmac. You've seen his face. If you haven't seen the video with the exchange, them passing, and the Russian hugs and everything else, you know he's back. Viktor Bout is back. The Lord of War.
I mean, just saying that name. I mean, just say that name, and you traded him for a women's basketball player. Granted, she might be one of the best ones ever. You know, I don't mean that in a degrading way as a women's basketball player. I just mean that's the best you could do. That is what that is our president-elect. And that is the best that he could do at the negotiating table. Are you shitting me? Like, really?
Yeah. That was horrible. You know, back in the Soviet Union in the 80s, when we used to have these prisoner exchanges, it was spy for spy, right?
Right.
You got one of our spies, we got one of your. Okay, I get that. Those are man, but this wasn't an even exchange. She was set up. She was just a political pawn, and this guy's. It took a heck of an investigation, heck of an operation to pull this off. Unprecedented. This guy's no dummy.
Yeah,
you had everything in order to pull this off, and what a slap in the face to DOJ, to DEA, United States Attorney's Office.
Millions of tax dollars wasted. And in the end, what are we gaining out of getting her back? That's going to offset the cost of everything that went is nothing but pure and simple. Biden is going to get some votes, or he thinks he's going to get some votes off of it. That's it.
That's what he checked the boxes to help him, because he's struggling in 2024. And that's one of the books I also wrote. Joe Biden won and
struggles every morning, probably.
Yeah. Just the press conference alone he had, he was struggling. Yeah, you're right. Everything he has is a struggle, is an issue. You know, from the exit, from the disaster exit from Afghanistan, to the economy, to this situation here. You know, like I said, and I put in my predictions, and I was right about the Republicans taking the House. I'm right about, I think DeSantis could be the strongest guy to take him out in 2024. But we don't want a guy in his mid 80s to be president of the United States. I mean, he's struggling as it is. Give him another 4 years. He's 80. He'll be 86 at the end, 87. Hey, goodness, heck no. We don't want that. He's going to be struggling every day doing his job. And again, if you're a poker player, you're a chess player, he's a really bad. That was some of the worst chess moves I've seen. He got checkmate pretty quickly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like I said, that's the biggest issue. And like we talked about earlier, you want to get something. Sometimes you make trades, it's the cost of doing business, but you still have to get something in return that you can use. And we didn't get anything that we can use. And that's the biggest thing. And now, who knows what Putin will ask for now. Whether Biden will give it to him now, I don't know. It just depends on, there's nobody over there for him to gain votes for. So I don't know. I just hope all of his constituents that, whispered in his ear and told him this was a good idea. I wonder what this will all lead to, in a year from now, 2 years from now, because if things are going sideways, that could cost him his presidency for sure, hands down. And probably a lot of people will turn on him if this goes bad.
Yeah. And especially if we see in a year from now that Viktor Bout did some things where it helped the Russians gain momentum back in the war, where he said, man, it seems like his contacts made a big difference for Putin in getting momentum that he needed, it's going to bite him. And I think it might. So watch out for that, folks. Watch out for that.
All of our episodes, we've documented and we've talked about the fact that Putin was losing, and he is, Ukraine is putting up a hell of a fight, even though they're, they're heavily outnumbered, but they are killing off Russian people, Russian soldiers, in massive numbers. And he is losing a lot of manpower. So if Viktor does do something to help him turn the tide and win this, then it's largely going to be, from help from him, a guy that we put out after we've given Ukraine millions of dollars to help him fight this thing. It's just like, sending somebody to rehab, and then when they get out, you're giving them a kilo of cocaine to go in a hotel room with. I mean, I don't understand the logic in this shit at all.
Yeah. So the viewers, the audience at home, just keep tabs. Bad decisions, and all the bad decisions. So when 2024 comes around, you're just like, yeah, I think it's time for a change.
Yeah.
And you'll see it, because it's strongly, I don't think you have seen Ron DeSantis, Trump, or anybody, strong leaders, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, right, make this kind of mistake. I mean, it's a colossal mistake, big mistake. And he knows what kind of guy this is and the work that was done. So
I don't think Clinton or Obama would have made this damn mistake, to be quite honest with you. I mean, largely it's because they were their own people. I don't think Biden is his own person. Biden is listening to so many people, because I truly don't think he has a damn clue of what's going on.
Yeah, no, I agree. So if you like this, the book, it's a short read. It's a good read. I predicted some of it. I put a lot of stuff 4 months ago about it. Viktor Bout, the world's most notorious arms dealer. It's out there on Amazon. Read it. You'll be done in about, it's about 3,000-4,000 words. Not a super long read, but very detailed. And it's a lot of information out there. I break it down and I make the argument, and I said it like I just read it now, an excerpt there from my book. It would be a disastrous mistake, and it will hurt us in the long run. And unfortunately it will. And I've done a few other books since then too.
What do you got coming down the pipe here? What's the inside scoop?
Yeah, no, I got some, I think 3 books I just released, which are pretty cool, especially for us. So we like talking about street gangs, and we like prison gangs, and we like cartels. Watch for this, The Rise of the Narco Empire came out right. CJNG, the Jalisco New Generation, that is the ultimate rival for the Sinaloa. Now that El Chapo Guzman is in the Supermax, he is now the most wanted drug lord in the United States and Mexico. His bounty is 10 million. El Chapo, the second time he escaped, his was 5 million. El Mencho. This is Ignacio El Mencho Cervantes. This guy's one to look for. If you look online, you'll see what he's wanted for. And his rise and how CJ&G has come about, it's amazing. He's nothing like El Chapo and Pablo Escobar. I mean, these guys lived in big palaces and everything else. Little background on him, if you want me to give me a little bit on what El Mencho's about.
Yeah, sure.
He came about in the 90s. He came illegally to the United States. He, again, like El Chapo, he came from mass poverty, selling avocados on the streets. El Chapo was selling oranges, whatever. And now this guy, according to DEA, has over $50 billion in assets. Mass poverty, $50 billion in assets. And he's now, they consider him probably the most feared drug lord in Mexico, because El Chapo's away and his sons, El Chapitos, really don't have the control this guy has. This guy, I'll tell you why he's so fierce and different. El Mencho, than is El Chapo now. Is he came to the United States? He got caught. He became in the San Francisco in heroin trafficking. DA did a reverse on him. They popped him. He did about 5 years. His brother got life, and he ended up getting deported to the United States. He ends up joining law enforcement with Jalisco, which is a state in Guadalajara. He goes into law enforcement. He's there for years, but he's dirty, right? He then goes into the Millennium Cartel, which is allies with the Sinaloa, and he becomes Sicario. He becomes a hitman for these guys. So former law enforcement guys are now working for the cartels. And so so he has the skill sets and knowledge how policing works in Mexico, and now he's also a trained killer, and he's killing for the Sinaloa. The Millennium Cartel has a big breakup, and he becomes the leader of what they call the Zeta killers, Mata Zetas, because the Zetas and the CJNG are at battle because the Zetas like to kill innocent people. He kills people where there's a purpose, like the mafia. You've done something wrong. There's a business issue, whatever. Some of these cartel groups, they'll hijack a bus because they can, and they'll kill everybody in there to send a message. You better fear us because we just kill randomly. And they like to terrorize communities. That's why the Trump administration wanted to call Mexican cartel groups terrorist organizations, because the Los Zetas and some of these other groups randomly kill, like MS-13, right? And we talked about that in previous shows. So that happened with them, and he became, from there, CJNG. Now, CJNG had a rift, and he just recently, this year, had to fight to keep that together with La Plaza Nueva. Guys that he brought in wanted to take over and create another cartel and get him out of it. Guadalajara became the battleground. And just recently, he took down El Cholo, which was one of his main guys who try and go over there. So if you look online, you type in El Cholo, you see the picture of CJNG guys around him, right? And you know what's about to happen. The next thing you see is a picture of him tortured, wrapped up in plastic wrap, and put in a park bench in Guadalajara. So you look at that, and it was a sign that says, "This is El Cholo, the traitor." He ends up winning that battle. So Plaza Nueva, which is trying to be a rival, he kind of conquers him, and right now he's the man right now in Guadalajara, and he has the control. So watch out for Mencho, and he's not afraid. I mean, they have RPGs. They've taken down military helicopters using RPGs. I mean, they've ambushed police, killing 15 and 20. So because he knows what's going on, because he was part of them, and now he's part of this guy. So El Mencho is fascinating. The rise of a narco empire. They're now the big guys here, and they're terrorizing and really going big and strong. Watch out for them. It's a good read. If you don't know much about them, I think you'll like my book here. And I also did a few books on MS-13, the savagery and brutality of MS-13, and La M, the Mexican Mafia, how they're all tied together. So these are very good, fascinating books here also. And a shout out to Thomas Berryman also. He did a short video for the Prison Gang Killers for me.
Yeah, I'm narrating. Yes, nice.
Yeah, it comes out there. And we also did one for MS-13. Also shout out to Adrian Martinez for doing one for the mass shootings and LA gang wars. I did the same thing. So a lot of people are picking up on that, and they're trying to do stuff like that. I know we talked about some of that too. I think it's good. These short videos doing well. People really enjoy them. I narrate, and then you match up the video with what I'm saying, and they're really popular. I had one of them go over 10,000 views with me talking about undercover story, and Adrian matches up what I was saying. You know, I've got a big beard. I got the whole thing going on. So
that's cool stuff, man. That's why I'm glad we were able to get you back on here. You're one of our most favorite guests. All your episodes always do well because you're very knowledgeable about all these subjects, and you cover all the bases that, you know, when it comes to the crime aspect on crime and entertainment, you're kind of our go-to guy. And I think we talked about it last time. I wasn't aware that I was your first podcast. So
that's right.
that I was able to kind of break you into the crew here. Now everybody's being able to do it. And that's the beauty part, because you can go, you've got so many books, man. You can go on everybody's podcast and tell a different story every single time.
Every time.
And there was one that I was thinking, and we might cover later on, but have you ever done anything on the Aryan Brotherhood?
I could. Oh, you know, remind me, you know how we did the survey that ended up picking Sonny Barger? Yeah. And I did Taco Bowman later, and then the Mongol Nation. Adrian Martinez did that with me also. Yeah. And I thought, the reason why I did MS-13, because we had MS-13, we had the Mexican Mafia, Bloods and Crips, and Los Zetas. And I thought everybody wanted to hear about MS-13. So I started writing my book ahead of time, and the Mexican Mafia ran away with it. So then I had to do another book on the Mexican Mafia. So heads up to him. That worked out really well. and he's doing another little video on that too. So I think that'd be cool. But Aryan Brotherhood, yeah, that's I kind of I did a chapter on him in Prison Gang Killers, but I think I would like to do a book on him.
Yeah, I mean, you got so many influential figures in that particular gang, like T.D. Bingham and obviously Baron Mills, who I think went to Colorado Supermax, and he's been on a lot of the History Channel and Gangland shows before. But Michael Thompson, recently done a full interview with Vlad on GG Vlad, and it was really cool. And like I was just the way he talked about, he told me a lot of or not told me, but he explained a lot of things in there that I didn't know. And I mean, it's a really good interview, and I'll even shout listeners out to go over to Vlad and check that out. But Michael, I think that needs to be another.
Look at my book too, because I mentioned, I think it was a few years ago, and I got to double check. He claimed to have been the most rehabilitated inmate ever, right? And then he gets caught up in this big scheme in Orange County in California for scheming and stealing from people using. It was a white collar scheming operation, and I'm not sure what the status is right now.
Unemployment fraud.
Yes.
Yeah, it's still going.
Scheme.
He talks about it at the end of the interview. He talks about it because Vlad brings it up, and basically he said right now it's just still kind of in litigation. But yeah, it was like I want to say $400,000 and something like fraudulent whatever they did, whatever kind of fraud it was. He says that it's a former AB member that's ratting on him, and they're giving him a deal. So as of right now, it's just pending, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think that'll be a good one to maybe hop on.
I'll look into more to that too. Yeah, for sure. We're gonna do a show, and I can talk more. But interesting, the dynamics between MS-13 and the Mexican Mafia. I talk about it in my books, and the Mexican Mafia itself, and the ties they have with the cartels and their foot soldiers, and how this is my theme. The Italian Mafia, and I always said before, Italian Mafia and the one percenters are not what they used to be, but these street gangs and cartels are getting tighter, bigger. And when you got when El Mencho now, the Mexican government, it says worth over 50 billion, you bribe everybody. And if they don't get bribed, you have the weapons. When you bring RPGs and you're bringing down military helicopters, so we don't have a fair partner in the war on drugs. That's for sure. Mexico is part of the problem. Same as Central America and South America. So it's all corrupt in there, and we have to really fight it from within with the addiction, and hope people get the help and treatment they can to overcome it. Because if not, they're weaponizing cocaine and heroin and other pills against us to destroy us.
Yep.
So remember that, folks. Remember that.
Well, Ignacio, I'm glad you could stop by the show, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you on. I'm sure you'll be back here before too long. Everybody, be sure to go check out all of his books. We'll put a link to his whole Amazon store up in the show notes of this. We'll also put a direct link to the book on Viktor Bout, so you can go check that out, The Lord of War. Hopefully this situation doesn't get too much out of hand, but I don't have good hopes, good feelings about it. I think it's really going to wind up costing us. But I just wanted to touch on this, and because everybody's talking about it, and I didn't think of another guy that could have, come on and help fill us in more than Ignacio. So we want to tell you how much we appreciate you coming on the show, my friend.
Oh, anytime, brother. Anytime. I wish, elections matter. Elections matter. So always remember that, folks. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone, and everybody have a good, healthy New Year.
Yes, sir. Indeed. Everybody, I am Hollywood Wade. That was former ATF agent Ignacio Esteban, and unfortunately, we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all-new episode of Crime and Entertainment. Ignacio, we'll see you, my friend.
Peace out, brother.